2 days ago, Mixer made a big announcement. We are excited to announce that the Smite Pro League and Smite console series will be broadcast exclusively on Mixer. With unique co-stream angles, perspectives and views, Smite game Season 5 will be the best one yet. And as you can imagine, that announcement came with a fair bit of backlash. Exclusive rights means it's only being streamed on Mixer. There haven't been any statements regarding streams from other people, basically restreaming the broadcast or commentating over it, but we would expect that you probably get in trouble if you stream that on Twitch. As such, at least the official SPL broadcast, if not all broadcasts regarding the SPL, will be moved to Mixer. Naturally, a lot of people are very doubtful about that being a good idea. Twitch being the primary streaming service for anything game related, and then secondary maybe YouTube gaming, but even that's quite far behind already, so Twitch basically having that monopoly was always the central point for any sort of esports. And as such, there's a lot built around that hub. You have your emotes that you can use and all that kind of stuff. And a switch is something that most people don't really want to do and don't really like. Change is usually something that is not very nice. And if you look at Mixer's viewer stats, they are not exactly great. Most games there don't get a lot of viewers, and especially Smite on Mixer is pretty much dead at this point. So what we're gonna do in this video is look at how bad Mixer really is, if everything about it is just downsides, what positives we might see in it, and what various different people in the Smite community think about it, what they think about the reasons for it, and what the perks might be in their opinion, or why they think it's not a good idea as well. Before we get into the opinions, let's talk a little bit about Mixer itself. I looked at the platform, looked at what it offers and how it works to see how different it really is from Twitch or which benefits you could have by just using it. So you have to sign into the platform. You can do that via Microsoft, which is what they recommend and which is how you apparently get in-game drops. So I would assume that if you want any Smite loot, similar how it was on Twitch, you would have to link your Microsoft account. I'm not 100% sure on this. This might also just be related to Microsoft Games loot, and you can actually get your loot if you just log in with any account and then link it in some way. That's what we yet have to find out. Other options to log in include Twitter or Discord or just making an account, so that's pretty easy, and especially if you use Discord, they don't really get any data from you. The official description for linking the account is: linking your Microsoft and Mixer accounts allows us to give you digital rewards, add increased account security and more. It's easy to do, plus you can even use your current email address. If you use any other method of signing up, there will still be a pop-up recommending to link your Microsoft account. The whole Mixer app is directly integrated into the Xbox One as well. That's because it is owned by Microsoft. And you can guess what that means. Things are not as easy on the PS4. You cannot install an app for Mixer on the PS4 at this point, so it's a little bit more complex to access it, but you can still open it through the console browser, like you would do on a PC basically. And apparently there's an app that is being worked on, so it's not impossible to use your PS4 to watch Mixer, it's just not as convenient as it's being made on the Xbox One. In terms of functionality, Mixer has some very interesting stuff that Twitch definitely doesn't offer, which I thought was really cool, and I tried out some of the things. The first one is that there's sort of context-related streams. More specifically, there's a PUBG chicken dinner stream, meaning you will see a player that is very close to a chicken dinner and very close to winning the game. And then once the game is won or lost, you can vote next, and then it goes to the next stream where somebody is close to a chicken dinner again. I don't know how it works, but it's a very interesting feature, I think, that gives you a quick way to check out different channels until you find one you like by just showing basically good players that get close enough to chicken dinner and giving them the opportunity to get seen by a lot more people quickly, even if they don't have the biggest streams. And then there's also another feature that is more relevant for Smite specifically. The built-in multi-stream feature, what you would usually know as like multi-Twitch or Khadgar, is called co-stream over there, and it's directly on the website, so you can literally watch 4 streamers at once in the implemented system and use different systems that are tied to that as well, use a chat combined for all of them and stuff like that. I think especially the combined chat is a great feature, and I wish we would have more like that on Twitch, where you can literally chat across multiple different chat rooms with all the streamers that are streaming together. And that can be used for Smite and will be used for Smite. The announcement is as follows: Smite Pro League broadcast will implement Mixer's unique co-streaming technology to bring fans more camera angles, perspectives, and views. This multicast experience enables you to customize your viewing experience by choosing supplemental feeds that enhance the main broadcast. You don't have to make use of this, but you can. And as far as I understand it, will either be a third-person perspective at the same time that switches between players, or you can literally choose between the players you want to watch, like if you follow the jungler or whatever. I think the secondary option especially would be amazing, though that would require a lot of computing power on Hi-Rez, and I'm not sure if that's maybe a little too much for 10 players. Either way, this seems to be the biggest benefit to the viewing experience on Mixer over Twitch, and I personally like this feature a lot because I really prefer the third-person perspective over the top-down camera angle. Last but not least, Mixer also has something called interactive streams, which basically gives you the option to use sparks that you get by watching streams for a while. And with those sparks, you can then activate, for example, an alert popping up or things like that. I had a very funny experience that I'd like to share with you. I basically went into a stream and used one of these interactions, and the streamer recognized me, not believing that it was me actually, because I just used the alert command and he was like, nah, that's not the real DukeSloth. The funny thing about that was that it was actually somebody who wasn't even playing Smite, he was playing Fortnite, and it was pretty cool to get recognized outside of the game. So shoutouts to Dead Penguin Do. If you hear this, it was actually me. I'm not sure how this feature could be used for the SPL, but it could potentially be in one way or another. And last but not least, Mixer definitely has better technology behind it than Twitch does. The stream player seems to be a lot less clunky, seems to load a lot better, be more fluid, and overall the stream quality on many ends seems to be better as well. I don't know if there's some different bitrate restrictions that allow for that, but overall, the viewing experience in that regard should be better. Now, this is not the first time we've seen something like this. Dota has their own website where you can watch the streams with more interaction options, but they also stream on Twitch at the same time. But Dota also had a Facebook exclusive stream through ESL. That led to a lot of problems, a lot of trouble when streamers restreamed those streams through Twitch. All that kind of stuff happened. We also had Paladin streams exclusively on Facebook for a while. That honestly didn't go too well, and even though the viewer numbers were pretty decent, it was mostly because people scroll through their feed, watch 5 seconds, and it counts as a view by Facebook stats, even though they haven't actually watched a single bit of it. Other platforms have been tested with different rates of success. Sometimes it worked out decently, sometimes it didn't. Often it's also influenced by things like drops, like rewards that you get just for watching. And it also obviously depends on the size of the platform beforehand. At this point, I want to bring in some different voices from the community. DJ Pernicus said on his stream that the game's chance of growth is 0 when it is being streamed on Mixer. He said that some other games caught his attention through Twitch when there was competitive tournaments going on, like Overwatch, StarCraft 2, and CSGO. Now, I will say that I think Smite doesn't have that potential to be, well, caught on through Twitch. Yes, it will get some views, but CSGO, Overwatch, when they have tournaments, are very, very high up in the rankings in terms of viewership, where Smite doesn't reach the top row even if they have a tournament going on most of the time. There's still a chance of growth, but it's not nearly as much as the games that are already in the top row that are being looked at. And I personally never really looked around for other competitive games on Twitch. I did stumble across some, but that wasn't on Twitch, but rather through tweets of other people. For example, people were tweeting about Dota, and I was like, alright, let's check out the International for a bit and check that out on their website. So I think the impact for me personally through Twitch was never really that big, even though games have a lot of viewers. I would maybe click on the game, watch why it has that many viewers, or like look into the browsing folder and see, oh, yeah, it's just a tournament going on, and then click off it again. Furthermore, he says, Smite is literally dead in 1 year, at least on a competitive level. They sold out. That is possibly a bit drastic. We get back to that. What we can say, however, is that Paladin's viewership on Twitch took a decent hit. The question is, was that really because of Facebook, or was it because of the current state of the game? That is something that is yet to be determined now after OB64 is reverted. See my last video for that. And then we can speak more about how much Paladins was maybe affected in terms of viewership on Twitch by the Facebook streaming. Mystic Penguin on Reddit made some interesting points in a post talking about exclusive broadcasting rights and how that's comparable to major sports as well, that basically sell their rights to 1 or 2 channels, and those are the only ones that the event will be shown on. He also says that there's a rumor about a $7 million deal regarding Mixer, whereas Twitch just didn't want to match the deal at all and just kind of lowballed them and, made them an offer that couldn't compete with what Mixer offered them. So obviously Hi-Rez is aware that they won't get as many viewers on Mixer as they would on Twitch, because Mixer is a much smaller platform, but it could be possible that the potential gains from Twitch viewership are simply lower than the immediate pay that they would get from Mixer, meaning that overall their funding for the season would be secured and the overall benefit would just be higher. If you have 7 million as a deal, then, well, the prize pool is covered, the player pay is covered, and a lot of other things are covered too, which will offset a lot of the costs that you have. And I don't think that so far SPL specifically, or esports in Smite, was what brought in the big cash. Now, this is something that you can definitely consider short-sighted. It's just, you know, a lot of money versus more exposure. But the question is, how much exposure does Twitch offer for Smite at this point? The game has been out for quite a while. It's never really peaked on Twitch. It's always been like stagnating out the third row. And even with competitions going on, that's just a short-term spike. Hi-Rez will know how many players were roughly coming into Smite, like after SPL, for example, after Worlds, and how many players of those would probably be from Twitch. They wouldn't have the exact number, but they would have an idea of it. And if they say, hey, we'd get maybe another 5,000 players from Twitch, or we would get a few millions, and out of those 5,000 players we would have 500 that actually pay something into the game, then the benefit for Hi-Rez might be in the cash, and that could be invested into other things regarding the game that might attract players in another way that is outside of the streaming format, or the money might be invested in esports, in Smite, and somehow lead to growth in other ways in that context. All of this is just theorizing, because really we have no insight into those stats, into the decisions, and into the amount of money or other potential benefits that were going around in that regard. Proxy Damage wrote a very interesting chain of tweets on Twitter regarding this, where he explains how Twitch compares to any other streaming platform, using the example of a mall versus a small store outside of the mall. Twitch is the mall, and it attracts a lot of users that look at one specific product or want to buy one specific product, but then kind of see the other products that are around as well, because, you know, they're already nearby, where the small store has to compete way more in terms of having this one specific thing they're selling that is gonna either get the attention and make them survive or not. And the question is the SPL interesting enough to make Mixer as a whole interesting as a platform for people to switch over to that, at least for the SPL? From a technical standpoint, there is a benefit in switching to Mixer. Shanksmill, who previously worked at Hi-Rez and usually has some rather negative words towards how the work atmosphere and other things there were, said it's a classic case of fantastic technology without an existing audience. Their tech is undeniably better than Twitch, but it's hard to tell if it will scale. Other influential people in the Smite scene, like Quintosh, also say, I think Mixer is a good platform, I like Twitch, and both have some flaws. Esports will need more platforms. CSGO has deals with YouTube and Facebook, Overwatch with MLG, traditional sports have deals with TV stations, etc. But I'm just not sure if Smite should do this yet. Hopefully it works. Mountain Goat, the co-owner of Burrito, said, I'm not sure why Mixer's getting that much hate. I haven't tried it much, but it doesn't seem buggy like Etsubu, doesn't seem annoying like Dingit, and it doesn't seem as unfinished as Facebook. Ability to change camera, etc. sounds really interesting. Competition is healthy. I agree, especially with the competition is healthy part and the Facebook comparison. Many people may say, hey, Facebook didn't work, so why would Mixer work? But Facebook is just absolutely terrible for any kind of gaming interaction, because people don't want to put their real-life friends and their gaming situation, basically their gaming surroundings, their esports stuff, in the same platform. They don't want their grandma to know that they're watching esports right now, because then they have to explain to their grandma what esports is. So they don't even want to use their real names when using chats, and all of that kind of comes together on Facebook. So Facebook is just a terrible platform in any context for esports, whereas Mixer doesn't have the same problems. Mixer is just designed in a way like Twitch, just a little more fluid, a little more modern, but without the hub of all the things that Twitch already has and the big power behind it, and many of the things that Twitch has too. Anorexia says, this isn't a move that people are gonna love, but Hi-Rez has a great track record for supporting esports. They believe this is the best move, and if you all love Smite as much as I do, I hope it doesn't matter where the SPL's home is, and you'll continue to watch anyways. As a side note, obligatory Hi-Rez ain't forced pros to tweet anything. Believe it or not, we don't need to be contractually forced to look at our best interests, which is trying to make as many people as possible watch and play Smite. Now, Interactivity is obviously someone who is known to speak up very positively about most things Hi-Rez related, so he's definitely somebody who would defend Hi-Rez for many of their decisions and sometimes kind of regret that. In the case of Ola, he did, for example. But I think he brings up a very crucial point here. Hi-Rez has no interest in Smite esports dying, and they would make the decision with some logic to it. The players will be paid regularly for the first time this year by their orgs, which are paid by Hi-Rez, so Hi-Rez has to invest more money into them. So they are investing more into esports than ever before. I don't think that would line up well with them wanting it to die out at the same time and not caring about it anymore. According to Shanksmill, the esports department was not exactly making positive numbers beforehand, so there could be some benefit here. Aside of all that, there are some other minor up and downsides to Mixer that I'd like to address in this video as well. Twitch chat memes, like the emotes, are unfortunately non-existent on Mixer. Looking at the emotes on Mixer, they look pretty boring, and they don't even stand out in any way either. I really think that needs work, and that's a problem because a lot of people are very focused around the memes, especially those who use the chat. Though at the same time, the people who use the chat are only a fraction of all the viewers. Many people just want to watch the games as well. The small audience that Mixer has will definitely take notice. So many of the people from other games will see Smite there, just because the audience overall isn't that big and Smite is probably going to be plastered all over the page while it's going on. So it's probably going to be pushed a little bit more in that regard, and maybe also by Microsoft, because I'm sure Microsoft will be more than happy that they got this exclusive deal, and they might be pushing Smite more through the Xbox as well, and then the streams through the Xbox or whatever, because the app is already implemented in the Xbox anyways. There's also no stream delay on Mixer, which is nice for the chat interaction. And another benefit is that the player's pay is basically guaranteed through the money in the deal. There are some other risks though, that is what happens to Twitch drops that were previously in place. Are they just going to be gone, or what happens to them? Or the general thing that Twitch or the people behind Twitch might be a little bit pissed off about this deal. I don't think they will be, I think it's just business to them, but if they are, that could obviously not be the best situation for Smite being more pushed out. And I know that in the past Twitch has done some things that are maybe a bit questionable, a bit more influenced by personal favors and such, so maybe it's not the best to step on their toes. Also, it will be easier to miss the start of the SPL because there are no notifications on Twitch for it anymore. So there's no pop-up notifying you of the SPL currently going on, and you have to rely on other sources for that or just check your calendar, which many people like me rarely do for SPL games. And last but not least, there is no clipping so far. You can't clip short segments of the stream for highlight plays and stuff like that, which will come eventually. It's in development, but it's not there yet. There are a few things that the platform is still working on, and hopefully many of them will be there by the time the SPL starts, or at least later in the season. I personally think that making the switch just to get the third-person perspective is worth it for me. I just like having that, seeing what the players are doing in the moment in a more close-up scenario, hopefully for all specific roles, so I can learn more about the role I want to learn more about. But at the same time, I'm expecting to accidentally miss out on some games. I hope that rebroadcasting on Twitch will be okay, but overall, I'm not too upset about it not being streamed on Twitch in terms of the growth on Twitch. Smite has been stagnating on Twitch for a very long time. Many of the top faces in Smite Twitch are controversial in one way or another, and as such, I think that's actually hindering the growth a little bit as well, because if you don't like the 3 top streamers for different reasons, then you might just not want to watch Twitch Smite, and it really barely changes. There are some new upcoming faces on Twitch, like for example Deathwalker and Emilzy, that have their growth, some of the pro players, but that's pretty much about it, and I don't think that they will be affected much. So I'm not too concerned for Twitch really. I don't think all too much will change there. On the other hand, the downsides are right in front of us. It's definitely something that's worth keeping an eye on to see how things develop based on that, and what happens next season as well when that deal is over, or especially around Worlds, because we don't know anything about that yet. And with that, thank you guys for watching up. This was interesting and insightful, and you've got more of a look into the topic now with some different perspectives. If you enjoyed this, feel free to hit the sub button and the bell, it really helps me out. Other than that, see you for the next one tomorrow. DukeSloth, out. So I actually figured out my demonetization issue and it was my outro. As such, feel free to click any of the links around here right now. There will be new outro music as soon as I find something nice. Until then, as you guys requested, I will do the outro music myself. You're welcome.